All right, let's see. Let's change the title. Here. Right up there. It's gonna be a little wonky. All right, it's not gonna be perfect, but it's gonna work out. I'll be able to fill this bottom bar up with some other stuff later too. Save. Alrighty. It should be good. Yeah, that should be good. Alrighty. I just wanted to do a quick stream, something I've been wanting to do on this channel. Um, I wanted to start off by saying sorry for not posting so often. For those that do not know, I am traveling for my work. I'm in training for 5 weeks. So there was a lot of preparation I needed to do for my family to make sure that they were taken care of, and then also getting to the training, figuring out my schedule. But everything seems to be working out. Um, I wanted to take this time to really go into some efficiency methods, some tools you guys can use on how to effectively farm. And then this farm isn't, or these tools can be used for any sort of farm, whether you want to play for fun, whether you want to play competitively. I've seen a lot of accounts and a lot of users come out and they'll post like, oh, they unlocked Jedi Master League, right? And they only get them to Gear 9. Or they get them to Relic 0, but don't have all the signal data. And so we'll go into some timetables and some tools that I've created, as well as some public facing tools that will allow you guys to effectively plan out your guys' farms where when you have something unlocked, like a major character or a galactic legend, that you're kind of not just sitting on them and really can't be used. Um, so yeah, we'll get right into it. Sorry, I'm just drinking some coffee. It's 10 in the morning for me right now. Um, so we'll go into what are some of the bottlenecks that you're going to be facing, right? Now, when you want to look at a farm, um, we'll just take like a galactic legend, for example, and let's look at Sith Eternal. Now, when you look at here, you're like, okay, yep, I see I gotta farm these characters, I gotta give them relics, and then I get him unlocked. But there's Some more things to take into consideration that will make your journey to getting Sith Eternal that much easier. Some of the things that you're going to run into for bottlenecks, as you can see on here, there's a lot of relics. So signal data is one of those things. Another one will be relic materials, but more specifically Bronzium wiring, which even if you are like a light spender like I am on my main account, there's really no way to like hasten that process without really spending a lot of money. That one doesn't really have packs that are viable, while Signal Data does have some good ones like the Monday relic packs are pretty good. Another thing you're going to run into with these, and I'll show you a tool that I've created to kind of help plan it out a little bit, is the shards. So like some of these characters I might not have unlocked, and so when it comes to shard farming and getting them to 7 stars, that's also a bottleneck. Some bottlenecks I've seen in the past with some individuals is credits. They get these characters, they start leveling them up, and they start relicing them, and then they realize, oh, that's actually a lot of like millions of credits. Just as an example, just to take one character from 1 star straight to 7 is just about, let's say, like 7 million credits. But I have a tool that we'll go into in a minute here that will kind of plot this stuff out a little bit better. So, and then your last bottleneck, which is more of a constant, just like the time itself, is energy. You're going to have to sit there and wait for energy refreshes. Yes, you can whale on your energy refreshes, and that's fine, or just spend. But energy will be another one. And then lastly, actually, is your Kairos, your Kairo computers and your Kairo shock prods. They only really come from 2 different nodes. You can whale on these a little bit, but it's advisable to just have a well-balanced farming strategy. And I'll kind of show you what I'm working on right now to help out. And great timing, actually. This is actually one of the better packs you can get because it's a guarantee of these 2. And for $5, it's really not too bad, and they come around weekly. I've spent some money on these packs too, just to hasten the process. But let's go into what I'm farming to show you kind of like an idea of how I lay out my farms. So for those that don't know, when you go under squads, you can create a whole new tab for yourself and put as many squads as you want in here and title them however you want to help manage your farms. I specifically like this a lot because I don't have to go into each hard side, light side, and memorize what nodes they are. I can just click on Talzin for an example, just click on your little shard thing, and then just farm it straight from there. So we'll get into the tool in a minute, but to kind of preface what I've found in the mid game, so I'm about 6.2 million GP. In the mid game, what I found is a good balance is about 3 to 4 hard node farms at any given time, and the rest of your energy, which should be refreshed 3 times a day, will go into Kairo, depending on what you're doing. Now earlier you saw that had a little red crystal above when I was looking at some energy stuff. Those are dark side tickets for when you have a Galactic Legend, but you don't really have to do too much with it. Just the short end of that is if you're farming a certain light side or dark side tickets, just tailor your hard node farms to be predominantly that side that you're farming. So since I'm farming Jabba's ult, I predominantly have dark side individuals that I'm farming so I can farm more tickets. IG-12 and Grogu's on here. He's not a hard node farm. He's just a fleet farm to go after since I got my last ship done. But I digress. So what I've laid out here is kind of like, I want to say it was Zareth Prevails, who mentioned um, how to like layer your farms. And what I've noticed is so it's very effective. To give you guys a little background on like professionally who I am outside of here is I've been in project management for about a decade now. So having come to this game, I can definitely correlate some of how I manage my projects to how we can manage projects within Star Wars Galaxy Heroes because it's just farming for different teams and they have different aspects you need to farm, and so it kind of goes up my alley. But anyways, what I found is layering your farms is actually a really good idea. And so, what do I mean by that? So, when we look here, I have two different teams I'm farming essentially. I have the Inquisitors right here that I'm farming, and I have the Night Sisters that I'm farming. When you look on here, you can say, well, hey, you have a lot of Inquisitors you need to farm, and that might be true. Um, but what is not really shown on here is the fact that this isn't the team I'm really going for. These are just prerequisites. The penultimate team for this is Reva, which my guild and I are slowly getting. And so until I get Reva, which is about 6 to 8 months out, I have time to farm these individuals, and I can stagger the farms a little bit more. Like I'm farming second and seventh because they're on the dark side, and ninth is on the light side. So since the farming job is old and I'm waiting 6 months for Reva, I can wait on this. Seventh sister, I believe, is a Cantina farm. We'll double check, and that gives me time. Oh no, it's not a Cantina. I think it's ninth then. No, one of these is a Cantina farm. Yeah, seventh, fifth brother. So I have time to farm these individuals. There's no rush to being like, hey, since I'm farming Reva and Grand Inquisitor, I need to get these Inquisitors done right now. Grand Inquisitor, Light Inquisitors aren't that good. Um, I mean, still better than some of the teams I have, but I'd rather diversify my farms to get multiple things at the same time versus one okay team. Night Sisters with Marin is an okay team as well, um, and can be used where I'm at in GAC effectively. So, anyways, going to the layering aspect, since I'm farming two different teams right here, I am essentially progressing those teams at a rate that will allow me to progress my account faster than most. If I were to have spent all of my energy on Inquisitors, I'm not really progressing my account that much faster since the bottleneck in this instance that we have identified for the Inquisitors is Reva. And so, since Reva takes the longest amount of time, I can slot in other individuals to farm, and because it takes months to farm characters. The average amount of time from no shards unlocked to 7, if they're accelerated, is about 3 to 4 months. So I'm playing with some of the months that I have, 6 to 8 to get Reva, and then I'm slotting in other characters. I have finished Zombie before, slotting in Talzin, and now I have Talzin in there. So when you start looking at this stuff, you're like, well, how do I effectively plan these things? And I will show you a tool that I've created that will kind of explain it. A moment to get it all up. Okay. Sorry, I'm really new to streaming, and I don't have like a stream deck to make this easier, so everything has to be done manually. I will move my camera out of the way. Okay, so I created this tool after identifying the most common bottlenecks that you're going to experience. And now, some of you might not know what a bottleneck is, but in my project management experience, a bottleneck is when you look at the whole picture of your project and you see no matter how fast I do everything else, everything will stop because this one aspect of it cannot go any faster. I cannot enhance it in any way to make it go um, faster than it's already going. And so, your most effective method in sort of like planning out your farms is to identify your bottleneck and tailor all these other aspects I kind of went into of like shard farming, credits, zetas. If you know exactly how many zetas you want to get and how much your zeta income is per month. Um, Signal data, Bronzium wiring farming, all of those different bottlenecks. And essentially, you want to balance out as much as you can on the other aspects to which you cannot push your bottleneck that much further and bring all those up to the same level. Now, it sounds a bit complicated, but I will kind of show you and we'll walk through some examples. So, one second. Okay, so on here, in the first few columns that I've highlighted, we have the stars of characters, how 1 star through 7 stars, how many shards it takes, and then how many credits it actually takes to promote those individuals. Now, when you look at 1 to 85, just leveling them, right, from 1 to 85, you're already at 6.3 million credits that you're going to need. And then for those that do have hyperdrive characters, from level 80 to 85, it's 1.633 million credits. And so you're like, okay, well, let's make sure we plan out how many credits we're going to need, right? So right here is a quick and easy calculation done to figure out how many credits you're going to need if you're farming a character from 330, and this is how much it's going to cost from 330 plus your shards. And so this first row will take into account fresh characters, so starting from fresh to 330, and then this row takes into account your hyperdrive. So since not everyone wants to spend money on the game, you can see that just for one character, you need just above 8 million credits to level them up and promote them. And that doesn't count any kind of skills that you want to upgrade, which I didn't really put in here. And then none of this takes into account any kind of relic materials. This is just strictly your shards, how much that costs to promote them from 1 to 2 stars, and then leveling them. So for a full squad of 5 individuals, you're looking at over 40 million credits just for a brand new team, just to level them up. And so we're like, okay, this could be a potential bottleneck for some of you, especially in the early game when your Mark 1 rate currency really isn't free to be used up for credits. Then you want to make sure that you're planning for this. And so I did a bit of calculation and took on the highest incomes that we would get per week. So this does not take into account credit heist that comes around once in a while, because that can drastically give you different results. Sometimes you can get 1 to 2 million, sometimes you get 15 million credits, so I'm not going to take that into account. So Galactic War. If you're completing your Galactic War every week for 7 days, you're going to get just above 4.5 million credits per week. And then for your challenges, because we do get a credit challenge a few times a week, you're going to get just under 1 million credits. So you can see here, week 1, week 2's income, week 3's, and week 4's. So look on here and you can be like, wow, I make in 1 month just from the static incomes that we have, you only make about 22 million. So you're like, wow, it's going to take, 2 months alone just to get enough credits to level these individuals and promote them. So you can potentially have that as one of your bottlenecks is credit income. And so here is a great way, like, okay, in 4 weeks, it's gonna take me, 4 weeks is gonna get me 22 million. You'll probably get a little bit more throughout the week due to other events that happen, but um, that's a rough approximation. So that kind of covers the potential credit bottleneck you might run into. Now I'm going down here into this highlighted area. This is the time, which is a potential bottleneck for people, which is a constant because sometimes you might not play every day. Sometimes you play every day and you want to figure out, hey, how long is it going to take for me to farm said characters? And so on here we have crystal refreshes. That is, how many refreshes are you going to do on the individual's node, not your energy refreshes. So this is just taking one individual. We'll take um, Mother Talzin, for example, that I'm farming. If I don't hard refresh her node, which is what's commonly referred to, which is I do my 5 attempts and I don't refresh the node to do another 5 attempts, a non-accelerated character, which is a character that only has a potential for 1 shard to drop per attempt, will take you 198 days. And then an accelerated character from 1 to 7 will take you approximately 3 to 4 months, so 100 days. Now, if I wanted to get the shards the quickest, say everyone on Night Sister team, they're all at the appropriate gear that I want them to be at, but I'm waiting on Talzin, right? She might be my bottleneck. Not taking into account credits and everything, so everything's all good, but I'm waiting on one particular character to get done. I want it to get done the fastest. You can continue to hard refresh the nodes, but each hard refresh gets more and more expensive. Now, when it comes to crystal management, a lot of people, content creators out there, will tell you, hey, it's not efficient to do that. But it actually might be, depending on what your goals are, right? If you're working on a character that is a keystone into a team that you're going to be using for the next GACs, or in 3s right now, and you want it, but it's like using them for 5s or something like that, and you're like, hey, I need to get them done ASAP. If you justify that for yourself, that's for spending those crystals, that's efficient. No other person can tell you why spending or not spending crystals is efficient without really knowing what your tailored goals are. In the general sense, yes, it's not as efficient to spend crystals to hard refresh a node if there was a lack of planning on your end to determine what is the true bottleneck. Essentially, you'd never want any of your farm's bottleneck to be shards. Those are one of the quickest ways to complete something, like complete your whole farm in its entirety. But if you are that, if what you're planning is tailored to be like, hey, I just, I got lucky and I got some character and a shard pack and I want to get my last character done as soon as possible, then yes, you can justify spending however many amount of credits that you want, and balancing it with your credit income, or sorry, your crystal income, or you can spend money to buy more crystals and quicken these farms. So looking at this, if we were to take my Talzin for example, and I'm like, oh, I want to get her done ASAP, then I could hard refresh her node, which gives you the biggest return, and I can go from 100 days down to about 50. Now, I do know that some of these are approximations. A lot of it's RNG based, so I was taking averages that have been posted throughout the forums and Reddit for Star Wars Galaxy Heroes. So just know it's not going to be exactly 50 days. It could be a little bit lower. It could be a little bit higher. It just depends. But once you start getting the 2 and 3 refreshes, yes, it goes down a little bit more, but it's not going down as drastically from 100 days to 50. 50 to 33, and then 33 to 25. But these a good note to take on here too is like, say you want to farm a newer character that's out. Um, we'll say like Kelleran Beck or something like that, right? Or someone that's non-accelerating. If you just do one hard node refresh a day for that individual, you are going to get them around the same time as a non or as an accelerated character. You know, both approximately 100 days. So do note that like a lot of people out there are like, oh, don't farm non-accelerated characters. It's horrible. Um, I am here to try to tell you guys and do content on it that that shouldn't be the mentality. Um, a little side note, my opinion on the situation is that if you want to stay current and do the latest and greatest events, there will be non-accelerated characters required for some of those events, and it would behoove you to just go ahead and eat the cost of the crystals to farm someone that's more current. Um, as the game progresses in its lifetime, every new character that's coming out will be Cairo investment, meaning in the lower ends of their gears, you're going to be requiring Cairo prods or Cairo computers, and that's not going to go away. So for the counter argument of, oh, well, they require Cairo, that's true, but that's not going to go away. And as the game progresses and new characters go on, the amount of characters that will require Cairo, well, in the earlier years, is going to get greater. And then the pool of the legacy characters, so to say, the older characters that don't require Cairo, is going to start to shrink. And so I believe we need to start changing that mindset that we shouldn't be farming these non-accelerated characters or Cairo investment characters. You can easily farm these characters with a solid foundation of a plan, um, and a well-balanced hard node farm to Cairo farming energy usage without really having an issue with Cairo. Um, for a while, I was, doing 5 or 6 hard node farms for previous guides, and I was constantly Cairo starved. That was my bottleneck, and so talking with a lot of individuals who were in the end game, even about 3 to 4 hard node farms is pretty good, and some even go down to 2 if you're starving for Cairo and don't want to spend some money. So moving along, I created this right here as well, that I've highlighted in blue, and I titled it, How Long Till Unlock, Regular or Ship Farms. So say you have a character, and you don't have any shards for them, and they're accelerated. So we'll take Talzin, for example. Say you're just starting Talzin out. You need 330 shards, and it's going to take you approximately that time. And if you want to be like, nope, I don't, it will take you that much time. Now say you're like, hey, I got a character at 4 stars, and I want to know how long is it going to take for me to farm. It'll take approximately 75 days. Gungans are out right now, well, through the event, right? And say you get them to 4 stars, and you want to be like, hey, how long if I how long will it take at 4 stars of the Gungan that I have, Moss Nass, to get them done? It takes you, approximately 4 months to get them unlocked, or 5 months to get them unlocked. And this is not taking into consideration any kind of acceleration in time through the use of hard node refreshes. So I use this tool once in a while to kind of figure out, okay, how long is it going to take? But after playing for so long, you start to get it kind of in your head. How long is it going to take to farm? All right, moving on to the next one. We're going to look at some Cantina farms, right? Because Cantina is quite different. There is no limit to how many times you farm a node in Cantina. The only limit is the amount of energy that you have to put into Cantina. Now these are approximates, right? But if you're looking at like Fifth Brother for me, right? is a 10 energy node. If I do no refreshes of my Cantina energy, because remember it's not the node, you can do any Cantina node you want an unlimited amount of times based on the amount of energy you have. If I, for Fifth Brother, and I had no shards, and I did no refreshes on my Cantina, it would take about a month. If I wanted to do 3 refreshes a day of my Cantina energy, which is 300 crystals, plus any natural refreshes you get through the game, it'll take, a little over a week. Now, if I wanted to farm someone that in Cantina that's non-accelerated, just double the amount of these days is how long it's going to take you. Each energy is going to take a lot longer because you're investing way more. So a character that might be on an 8 energy node is going to complete the farm twice as fast as one character on a 16 node or 16 energy farm. So when new characters come out, CG will once in a while put them on Cantina, and yes, we generally want them to be on the lower ends because it's way quicker. But even at the highest one, 16 energy, it doesn't take terribly long. One thing I tend to do is a lot of people out there will say, hey, make sure you do all 3 energy nodes refreshes. But in a sense, yes, it would make sense, but you have to identify why you're doing that. If signal data, which is farmed from Cantina, is not your bottleneck and you have what you need, or you can get it done in a manner in which you don't need to do Cantina refreshes, it's actually more efficient to not refresh your Cantina at that given time. Now, to help widen the scope of this, you want to make sure, going back to why referring to Zenith of his layering your farms, you want to make sure that you're farming multiple teams at the same time so that you can really see months down the road, am I going to have a signal data issue? Because when you start farming characters from Cantina, that stops your flow of your signal data, which is required to relic your characters. So what I'm trying to say is just don't blindly follow the 3 refreshes per energy node without really understanding why you're doing something like that. And I'll kind of show you a little bit in a little bit to paint a picture of what I'm trying to get at. Now, going on to the next one, your energy planning is what I've titled it. Now you have your regular energy, which is the yellow one, you have your fleet energy, you have your mod energy, and you have your Cantina energy. And then this column right here shows you how much per day of naturally regenerated energy you get in a 24-hour cycle. And then the next row shows you how much bonus energy you get whenever those refreshes happen for you. And then this third row shows how much energy you get if you refresh it with crystals. And then finally, the total amount of energy you get while doing your 3 times refreshes if you want to. If you want to do more, you can just adjust these numbers, right? But it's 120 energy per refresh. So we have some energy to play around with, right? And then how do we effectively navigate the energy? So this is kind of a 2-parter, right? A 2-part tool. And it's all of this that I've highlighted from row 45 to row 61. And on here, what I've done is I have your regular fleet, your mod energy, and your Cantina. And I have it divided by how much energy it costs per type of energy. Now, in this example, I have 2 10-node refreshes that I'm doing, or 2 10 energy node farms that I'm doing. I have 4 12 energy and 3 20 energy hard node farms with the regular energy. Now calculating all that up, I have 64 total energy being spent on those hard nodes. And if I did my 3 refreshes, I have a remainder of excess energy I can use for Kairos or for another character if I wanted to, just under 100. So 95 energy difference, right? That I can spend on whatever. Going to fleets, on here as an example, I have 4 20 energy fleet nodes I'm farming at a time, and it's costing me 400 energy for that. And if I were to do my fleet refreshes, there's an excess there. Mods a little bit different because how your return on investment on mods is a whole different subject that I won't go into today. But just to keep it simple for this example, I have 8 nodes or 16 energy mod nodes I'm farming a day, so I'm getting the most use out of my 3 refreshes out of mods by only having 5 energy left over. And then lastly, Cantina, I have this one's a little bit different as well because it's not 4 nodes I'm farming, I'm doing 4 attempts of a node that's 16 energy 5 times. It's weird. It's a different type of calculation, but essentially this is how much energy or how many times I'm doing this energy and how much it's costing me. And then this is between the remainder of 320, and if I were to do Cantina refreshes, the difference on there. The main goal of this tool, though, is to show you that if you want to do 9 hard nodes, right, for your regular energy, you want to look at your total amount of energy needed, and then you go back to the energy farming plan and be like, okay, do I need to do refreshes? Without refreshes, I'm at 300 plus energy. So I definitely need to do some refreshes, right? Which will go into this part right here to make it a bit easier for you guys to understand. So what I'm calling the energy report. So this shows I need 640 energy for how many hard node farms I'm farming. Without refreshes, I'm at a deficit of 265 energy that I need to fill in. On here, on row 58 that I've highlighted, it shows how many refreshes you need to make up that deficit, and then how much remainder energy you have based on how many refreshes you're doing. Row 60 shows you crystals needed for each refreshes, and then the total amount of crystals you need per day to farm all the energy or to buy all the energy to do your farms, right? And so especially in the earlier and sometimes mid game too, if you're not in like high Kyber, mid to high Kyber, and you're not getting 1 or top 4 or top 5 in fleet, 550 crystals is a lot. And so that's why I recommended going down to only a handful of farms for your regular energy. And you can see now that if I'm doing 3 hard node farms at 20 energy, which is the highest, it's going to cost me 300 energy. But even without refreshing, I have a net positive of 75 energy that I can spend on whatever. Now, the general rule of thumb is if you have any excess energy from your regular node farming, it goes into Kairos. Depending on what you're doing, in the example for my account, I am at farming Jabba's Ultimate through Darkside tickets, which means I have to farm Darkside nodes to get excess amount of tickets to then spend on the event 10 times. So I need 700 Darkside node tickets, and it's a random drop that I don't know haven't done all the calculations for it, but I've tailored my farming to be put on my dark side. So anyways, the excess energy that I have from my just 3 hard node farms and no refreshes goes into dark side Cairo for me. Now, if I wanted to, which I do, I take the refreshes, the 3 refreshes I can have here, and dump them into my Cairo. And that's kind of going back to my point of why Cairo shouldn't be as much of a crunch or a concern as what people make it out to be especially when it comes to the newer characters, because the eventuality is that mentality will have to shift, or you will always be farming 3, 4, 5-year-old characters and never catch up. Because even if you want to farm all those older characters that have no Cairo investment, at some point in your time playing this game, you will invest into a Cairo character. But yeah, so this tool I found very helpful for planning out how many crystals I need based on the farming that I want to do. And with how much, it kind of goes into the segue into the next part, is figuring out how much crystals do I make per day, and can I sustain my farming method based on my crystal income. And the crystal income is highlighted here, row 63 to 68. So crystal income, you get about 100 a day. It fluctuates just ever so slightly, but that counts all of your dailies and Galactic War. GAC, this is a tailorable number, so I'm in Kyber 3, so I get 220 a day. And then, and then for fleet, because I'm in training, I'm not getting as much, so we'll just put this down to 300 for now. Now, the gross amount of crystals that I get, which is just like a fancy financial term, basically, of how many crystals do I get before I take things away that I spend it on, is 620. And based on my farming plan and my energy report, I need to spend 400 crystals to meet the minimum of my farming plan. I have a net, which is what's been taken away, of 220 crystals a day. So I'm gaining 220 crystals per day. This tool I found the most helpful when it came to planning my farms, because crystals is the premium currency that you can buy with money, but you can gain relatively easy through playing the game and getting higher ranks in Fleet Arena and getting into higher GAC ranks as well, like Kyber, because then it tells me, okay, I can save these crystals for something. I can spend these crystals on more regular node refreshes, or I can be like, hey, I am only going to do one fleet node, right, like as I'm doing right now. I'm doing one fleet node, and I'm not refreshing my fleet nodes because where I'm at in the game, I don't need to farm ships anymore from fleet. But even if, I'll make it more realistic, if even early to mid game in my farming plan, I would always recommend farming 2 fleet nodes at any given time. And that doesn't require any refreshes. So there's no fear of like, oh, well, I have to spend crystals. Because ships takes the longest. They're considered a non-accelerated, just like any other thing. And it takes 6 to 8 months to finish those farms. And I don't, my mind says I will rarely, if ever, refresh a fleet node just to get that done quicker. So I want to save my crystals to do something else with. Mod farming, I farm mods multiple times a day. Even my mindset is I don't do 3 mod refreshes, I do 6. And that's because I am generally not farming Cantina as hard because signal data isn't my issue. It's Bronzium wiring right now, which is a whole different discussion. So looking at this, like I have a net of 470 crystals. I spend an additional 3 refreshes on my regular energy, and I'm still coming out as a net positive with my crystals. Okay, so moving on. This is just a generalized information for individuals to kind of plan out how much Mark 1 and Mark 2 currency you're going to get, which plays into how quickly you're going to obtain some of the relicking materials and Gear 12 and Gear 13 pieces. But it was just an informative piece. And this will be tailored to each individual, so I won't really go into it because everyone's in different guilds, doing different raids, and getting different boxes. Oh, and sorry for any of the weird setup background because I'm traveling for my job for 5 weeks. I'm just on my laptop and in my little hotel room, like so it's not the best. So moving on, we have signal data farming, which is a potential another bottleneck for you, right? And signal data is used to relic your characters from relic 1 through 9. In this, I only put to 7 um, because I was just trying to get a product out that worked and going through iterative testing phases to see how long it takes to get this done. Now, I did put a reference on here to a Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes Reddit post where someone had done the math based on multiple data points and approximated how long it takes, depending on the number of refreshes you do in Cantina, to get all the signal data you need for these different relic levels. So a lot of people or content creators will say, hey, Relic 5 is now the new baseline. And that is because the CG had changed Datacrons, which is a whole like GAC focused item that you can work on. Uh, they changed the baseline of getting the highest level Datacron ability, which is at level 9, from a Relic 7, I believe it was, to Relic 5. So it made it more accessible for those that don't have high Relic characters to use Datacrons. But that's a whole GAC discussion. So say you have a character, uh, like one of those C requirements, Sith Eternal was like, hey, we need him at Relic 3. If I don't do any Cantina refreshes, it should take approximately 5 days to farm that signal data. And I'll show you another tool, Swoga Events Gear, that will kind of show this data as well. But these are just approximations of how long it takes to complete signal data farming for each individual relic. So you can tailor your farms based on the how long it's going to take to get something done. And then lastly, kind of a more experimental tool. It's not 100% done. Um, it's only tailored to like specific levels for characters. But on here, I have 5 characters I'm farming. So these can be whatever you want. So I just put my Imperial Trooper team on here. And I put random, or not random, but like the star levels I had them at currently, the level I have them at currently, and then the calculations are done on how many credits do I need to get Veers to his max level and max promoted, so 7 stars. Since he's already 85 and he's 6 stars, I just need 1,000,000 credits to promote him to 7 stars. And I need 100 shards to get that done. Piet is at 4 stars and he's level 50. So it's going to take just under 2 billion credits to promote him to 7 stars and to level him to 85. This shows the amount of shards I need. On here are they farmable right now? Yes or no? And how many are they accelerated? So are they dropping 2 shards per attempt or no? How many days till completed? Yep, he's farmable. Yep, he's accelerated and he's farmable. This will show you approximately how many days is it going to take to complete this. Now, it might be like, okay, well, we talked about, the shards and everything. But this particular calculation on row 89 shows, or does the calculation of, it takes the highest, the bottleneck that we're talking about, the highest amount of time it will be to complete one of these objectives. And that is, is it going to take, for an example, for Veers, it's going to take 30 days just to get his shards done, his stars. His level's already done. Based on the credit income that we get per week or per month, it takes the calculation of that minus how many credits we need, and are they farmable and are they accelerated? And it tells you, hey, your bottleneck for Veers in this instance is his shards. It's going to take you 30 days to get this done, um, and to get him promoted. Now let's go to like Piet, for example, right? And say, okay, I look at, I want to look at my bottleneck right now for this team is Piet. Piet is going to take me the longest. He is at 75 days in comparison to everyone else. I have Death Trooper finished. I'm working on range and Piet and Veers right now, um, and Stark. So I say, okay, look, to complete Piet, 7 stars, level 85, to get all the shards and credits, it's going to take me 75 days. So how about I hard refresh them one time? Now, based on this right here, it takes how many credits you need. It tells you approximately how long it's going to take to get those credits. It tells you how many crystals you need to get that done. So within your time frame of 56 days, it's going to take you 950 crystals to hard refresh Piet's node one time. But with the crystal income and the energy plan that I've set out right here from the energy report, I'm still netting 25,000 crystals in approximately 2 months. And then this calculation takes how many crystals I need based on my net income uh, for that. Now, again, this is an experimental tool, so I haven't been able to get the time to really hone in on like calculations and everything. But I found that this was specifically the how many days is it going to complete to identify my bottlenecks when it comes to farming. And um, looking at this as an example, I would say I would hard refresh Piet's node if I wanted to get this team done for whatever my reason might be as soon as possible, while not spending as much crystals. I would, in my instant or my opinion, I would refresh Piet's node once a day, and I would tailor it to like once his shards start getting in line with, Starks and range, then I would stop refreshing. But until then, I would hard refresh to catch Piet up to Stark and range. Sorry. Now, I'm going to go into another tool that is publicly available for people, and that is the SWGOH events, the gear specifically. Now, this tool is a farming planning tool that tells you how much relic materials you need, how much signal data you need, and how much gear you need based on what you have in your own inventory to get a character to whatever the goal is, which is for what I have up here is like I want Starkiller at Relic 8, I want Jabba at Relic 7. And this is all that I need left to complete it. Now, taking this small example just from my own account sake, looking at this, I'm like, okay, I have signal data that I need to do, but I can only farm one at a time. I mean, I could technically farm both, but you take beat for signal data, you add these two for days remaining approximated, and so it'll probably take me a little over a week to finish my signal data to get these two to where I want them at. Now, SWGOH Events Gear is a free tool that anyone can use, but in an instance for myself, I use another tool called Hot Utils, which is a Patreon subscription that I pay per month. And there's a feature in Hot Utils that will auto-populate the gear that I have in my inventory in SWGOH Events Gear page. So I don't need to manually do this. But if I wanted to, I could manually adjust, hey, now I have 65 incomplete signal data, or I have, let's say I have 80 of this now. So this tool is very useful for planning out your other bottlenecks that I kind of described. So say let's take these off, you know, using my account for an example. Um, say from my account, I want to farm um, Lord Vader, right? And this takes into account the shards that I have, the relics I have them at, and minuses anything else that I might need to get the characters up. So say I have, um, we'll just use an example of like I have Newt at Relic 5. I really don't, but just as a hypothetical, I have Newt at Relic 5. It won't show me the gear I need to get Newt from level or gear level 1 to Relic levels because I already have them at Relic 5. This tool will only show me, hey, you already have them at Relic 5, here's what you need to get them to Relic 7. So taking my account and seeing all these individual characters, and some I have Relic, I have Zam Relic because of Jabba, and some other individuals. This shows me, okay, based on your inventory, which is this owned column right here, you need this amount of materials. So for carbonite circuit boards, I need just under 2,000 to get the journey done based on what I already have completed, and to get them to their respective relic levels to meet the requirements for Lord Vader. These are what I require. Now, the ones that are over here, so arrow magnifiers all the way up to carbonite circuit boards, those are your relic materials. There's no days remaining because these are crafted or bought through the store, or you can use crystals to buy packs. So there will not be a days remaining, and you cannot farm them. In a sense, you can't directly farm them. You can farm their components, which is a different thing. So moving down to signal data, which could be a potential bottleneck, you can look on here and be like, okay, let's take a calculator out, and I can only farm one set of signal data at a time, essentially. So it'll take me, a little over 2.5 months to get the signal data done just to meet the requirements. And then down here, it shows how many injectors I might need, which is, a special material that sort of can be farmed, but is generally gathered through currencies later in the mid game when you have your get to stuff done. You can use that for your injectors. Generally, I tend to get them through events like your assault battles and sometimes through conquest and territory battles and territory wars. And then this shows some other random gear I might need. Then moving on to some of the more currency heavy gear. Generally, the rule of thumb is if you see that you can buy it with Mark 1, buy it with your Mark 1 because that's your most expendable currency and the one that, if you're not farming a specific character, you can spend that Mark 1 on these individual components. So like for here, I need over 2,000 Mark 3 Carbantes, and it's going to cost me 45,000 Mark 1's raid currency to get it done. Or I can hard farm it, but as you can see, it's going to take 67 days just to hard node farm that, and I would not recommend that whatsoever. Just buy it with currency as you get it. And so, it shows all the gear I might need. It shows Shard Shop currency if it shows up in the Shard Shop. It shows Mark 2s, Mark 1s, Get 2s, Get 1s, Guild Event currency, Grand Arena currency, and crystals if you wanted to. So this tool is very helpful for when you are planning to go for someone new or farming their requirements to see how long and what is my shopping list essentially. And then you slowly chip away your shopping list until you get all the requirements done. Now, something I've noticed, and I've noticed this throughout my time playing, is people will use this tool, but not really grasp what the, going into the bottleneck discussion again, is what the actual bottleneck is of this, right? So say you have a good grasp on getting all this stuff done. You're like, yep, I know where to get all the relic materials. My signal data is easy. I can get all the shopping list done, right? What I generally see people done is they will get all this stuff done and then tunnel vision into something else and be like, yep, I'm good. I got all this stuff done. Um, I'm good to go to get Lord Vader. But the problem is you might you're not taking into consideration Lord Vader himself. So you want to go in here and add Lord Vader and say your goal is, okay, I need him at Relic 7. So you add him and you're like, oh, I actually need another 200 Carbantes and a bunch of more bronzium wiring, more signal data, you know, that, just over 2 months thing now turns into, what, 30 plus, now we're going closer to 3 months just to finish the requirements and then farm the gear and relic materials for the actual Galactic Legend. And I think this is what people really miss on, is that they just use this tool, they click on one of these requirements, say they're like, I just want Starkiller, right? And I already have Starkiller, but just, they're like, hey, I get these 4 characters to Relic 5 and I'm done, right? They look at this and they're done. Yeah, but did you put the individual you're actually going for in this tool so that when it comes time to unlocking, you're not he's not dead weight. He's not just sitting there at like gear 9. Like if you unlocked like JML, for example, and you didn't put JML on here, then it's just kind of a waste, right? You're like scrambling to gear him, and then you get him the relics, and then you can only relic him to Relic 3 or to Relic 5. And then, for example, like uh, Luke, he needs to be Relic 9 because he is, essentially a tank. So he needs to be Relic 9, and that's a lot of materials for some people, especially in the earlier to mid game. Like when you're looking to like Relic 9 someone, like I'll just use Lando. Don't Relic Lando as 9, but I'll use him as an example because I don't have any relics. You're looking at like impulse detectors. You're looking at droid brains. You're looking at Gerda keypads, like really expensive stuff that if you don't have stockpiled, your Jedi Master Luke is a waste at that point. Um, so when you're farming requirements for individuals, make sure you are taking into account what your squad that you're going to be using them with also require. And so what I always like to say is like when I was farming for Jabba, right? I was like, cool, I'm going to farm for Jabba. I'm going to add Jabba, and I want him at Relic 7. And then for his 5v5 team in Grand Arena, for example, like I want Jabba for multiple reasons, like Smugglers Run 2 and mods and stuff like that. But let's just say my goal for Jabba is for Grand Arena. I want a good Jabba squad. So I'm like, okay, here's his requirements. Here's him as an individual. And at the rug level I want him to be at. I look at Chrysanthemum, I'm like, he's one of the tanks that I need. I want him at Relic 7. Skiff is really important to this team, so I want to bump him up to 7. Boosh is key to this. I want her at 7. And then, since I'm going to be using Jabba on both Grand Arena and Territory War, I want Embo, who has a really good ability to dispel buffs. Like, he was never a requirement. So when I add him, I have my Jabba squad right here and all the requirements needed to get Jabba. And when I go down here, I look, I'm like, okay, to get everyone I want for my ideal squad, plus requirements, plus the individual I'm farming for, in my instance, because I'm still farming for some of these to be a little bit higher relics and Java to be higher relics. This is all I need to do. I need a few more um, Mark III holo projectors and some signal data. So according to this, looking at um, if I were to hard node farm this, but I'm not going to because it's Mark I currency, chart shops, and other currencies, it will take me 3 days to get all of this done based on what I have right here. So this tool is extremely powerful, extremely valuable, and you don't need to buy or pay into the whole hot utils because you can just go to this top right and view and update gear, and you can find all these individual pieces and update them to what you have. Is it a pain? Yes, but how you spend your real life money is completely up to you. I have a 2-year-old son. I have a job to worry about. I don't want to have to, excuse me, come in here and manually update this, so I pay for hot utils. Excuse me. So definitely use this tool, whether you're early, mid, late game. It really is powerful to show you exactly what you need and what you need to focus on. And it really highlights what are some of the more common um, bottlenecks that you might have. And then this side note, this also takes into account like how much energy are you spending. So if you are like, hey, I'm doing my 3 refreshes, this is how much I'm putting into it every day, and that's how long it'll take. Like if you're like, nope, I am only going to put, I'm not going to hard node refresh Cantina. Oops. Put in that, and now it's going to take you 5 days instead of what it was before, like 3. So I hope you guys like look at this tool and be like, okay, and like utilize it to its fullest potential to really hone in on like, okay, where are my bottlenecks at? What do I need to be focusing on? Because as a personal gripe, I am um, frustrated with individuals who, not anyone in specific, but just individuals who go out and farm for a Galactic Legend, get said Galactic Legend, and then they're stuck at Gear 8 because they're missing gear. It's like, okay, well, GAC lock is in 24 hours. If that Grandmaster Luke or Jedi Master Luke is not done to like Relic 9 or whatever, then he's essentially useless. So moving on, something else that is a little bit harder to pinpoint because every individual's currency for this individual thing is different, and that's Zetas. So when we take a look at the Java squad, I know, hey, Java needs, you know, 6 or so Zetas on them. I need to get those 6 Zetas, so it's 120 Zeta pieces I need. And then Embo, I want his Omicron, so that's Zeta materials, and it's Omicron materials, and sprinkle in whatever else that you might need for your crew. Um, Try to take that into account when you're looking at your ideal squad of how many Zetas does this squad need, and how many Zetas am I getting per month. Sometimes, like in the case where I'm at, for Fleet Arena, I don't need anything else with that currency, so I just spend it on Zetas. And depending on how well you do in different events, you get maybe a little bit more Zetas here and there. So I can calculate, okay, I can get, approximately 5, maybe 6, or 4, maybe 5 full Zeta pieces in a month. So I know, okay, for this squad, it's going to take me about 2 months in just Zeta material farming to get the squad up. And say I had no Zetas at this instance, even though I might get this stuff done within a week or maybe 2, the squad's not at its fullest potential because I have no Zetas. Say I had no Zetas at this moment. So I have a Java with no Zetas. I have an Embo who can't do anything in Territory Wars because that's the whole point of me farming him is, getting his Omicron for Territory Wars. So I'm gimping myself by having this squad, yes, it's nice to see the pretty numbers and the borders and stuff like that. But if I don't have the Zetas next to them, it's kind of useless. So when you're planning out your farms, do take into consideration, hey, I have this squad and how many Zetas do I need? And then start saving them. Don't just throw Zetas on people because you want to, or because they're a part of a different squad. If you're farming a legitimate like meta squad, like a Galactic Legend squad, all of your Zetas should be funneled into that squad. So that when it comes time to unlock, like when I had unlocked Jabba, I had enough for all of his Zetas but one. I got all the important ones done and completed. I am in my scenario, I am still farming for Embo, his gear and relic, but since we're in GAC 3v3, I'm not using him. I'm just using Jabba, Chrysanthemum, and Bouch Leia. So Skiff relic can wait. Embo relic can wait, and I can fill in and use this this current GAC season to add time to myself and farm this Embo his gear and Skiff his relic materials. So I highly advise people take a look at this tool, tailor it to how you want to use it. If you want to not manually update your gear, Hot Utils is the tool that I use. It's a Patreon subscription. I forget how much it was. I think it's like $6 or $7 a month, or maybe even less. And I'm able to it auto updates my gear on here. So it's a fantastic tool. Like you saw earlier, I'm farming for Grand Inquisitors, right? So I click on Grand Inquisitor and it shows, hey, here are the requirements. This is what you need to get them done. But excuse me. As I said before, you want to always add the individual, right? And say I want him at Relic 9, right? So I add him at Relic 9. But then remember what I said earlier is that Grand Inquisitor, these Inquisitors are the requirements for Grand Inquisitor. But even a Grand Inquisitor-led team isn't the penultimate team I'm trying to go for. I'm actually trying to get Third Sister or Reva for this ideal squad. So you make sure to add those individuals. It's so many people do not add the actual individuals for the squad you're going for. And now it lays out, okay, here are your relic requirements, here's your signal data requirements, here's all the gear that you're going to need. And then start chopping down this list. It might seem like a lot, like, oh, that's so much stuff that you need, but if you really look at it, like, med packs, I only need 10. It's gonna take nothing. I only need 42 of these. It's the bigger ones that while I'm in this phase of farming the shards for these individuals requirements for Grand Inquisitor, I look at the ones that have the gear that has the most days required or the most requirements and be like, okay, I only have 10 of these Mark 12 stun cuffs. So I'm going to be focusing my Mark 2s, Mark 2 raid currency and shard chop currency. When I see that stun cuffs come, I'm going to put my currency in that and start chopping down on these things. I need a lot of the furnaces, and I've been spending my currencies as I see them. Or if you don't want to start chopping down on this, just chop it down on something else, right? That's where it comes to like layering the farms, right? So this is the squad I'm farming for. I'm also farming, Night Sisters. I only need her at gear 12. I don't really care about Night Sister Zombie so much. I got Marin. I want her at Relic 5 at least. Daka, I want at Relic 5 at least. I got Talzin. She can be gear 12. Who am I missing? Right? Marin, Daka, oops. And then Asajj, she can be at gear 12. And so I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, I'm farming my requirements for Inquisitor, but I'm adding all the requirements I need for the ideal team of Third Sister, Grand Inquisitor, and I'm also farming Night Sisters, right? And so this is where layering your farms really helps out, counterbalancing how much stuff that you need to farm for. And be like, wow, there's so much stuff I need, but it's really not. Some of this stuff is very easily gettable. Um, some of the bigger things I would focus on, like Mark 5 stun cuffs, if I ever see them, I'm just going to buy them with Mark 1 currency. I look at something else of like, I need a bunch of the droid collars, spend my currency on that. And the Chewab hypo syringes, spend on that. Or the Mark 6 detonators, and so on and so forth. So layer your farms out. Make sure you add the individuals you're actually going for. And also on the side note, plan how many Zetas you're going to need and Omicrons you're going to need to get that squad up to its fullest potential. And then that way you can really see how much you need to farm and calculate what is going to be your bottleneck. Is it going to be Zetas before you get Dakas up and Talismans and Marins up, or is it going to be shards? Is it going to be signal data? That's a very common one as well. In like my instance, almost everything is going to be held up because of Bronzium wiring, and that's okay. Like in an instance for me, if I'm so stuck on Bronzium wiring, which this is a lot of Bronzium wiring that I need, start adding more things to this farm. Say I get these requirements done, and I'm dumping all of my resources in the GI and Third Sister. Night Sisters are getting close to done. Just add more stuff to your farm. Always have a third and fourth and fifth farm planned ready for yourself. Now, I wanted to kind of show or highlight like some examples of this, of like how this tool could have been effectively used by an individual to plan their farm out better. Now, I'm going to poke fun at someone on my Discord I'm in. So we're going to take a look at Local's account right here. So we're going to just go down, we're going to go to his collections, and we're going to look. That's all right. So he had just unlocked Jedi Master Luke a few days ago. And using him as an example, when he had unlocked Jedi Master Luke last weekend, he was stuck at like Gear 8 or Gear 9. And had he had planned better, it would have not been a bottleneck to sit there and wait on random Gear 8, Gear 9 pieces. He was stuck on Cairo, so he could have, farmed Cairo node a little bit harder. But I don't know his exact farming plan and how it was well balanced, or if it was well balanced, to determine that just from looking at his profile. But good on you, Local. You got him some Relic 9. Just need a couple more Zetas and he's solid. But yeah, so like I had said before, like if you're going after JML, he's the tank for that squad. Like he does a lot of damage based on his protection, and he needs that Relic 9 to get that added protection. Having this amount of protection is okay, but you're going to want it as high as possible. Now I'm going to go into someone else's account. His name's Nick, who had just recently unlocked Grand Inquisitor and Reva. And his was really interesting because by the time he had started this farm, he had spent, I think, from start to finish, just under 2 months to farm their requirements. And that's pretty crazy if you think about like how much it takes to get all these requirements done. Starting from scratch and getting all these to Relic 5 within, I think it was like a month and a half, is well planned on his part, and looking at the whole scope of what it takes to get the requirement that you're looking for. And now, since he is waiting on Reva or Third Sister, it's okay in this instance to have GI at the level that he's at because the squad in the rank in GAC that he's at is useless, right? It's not really a team. But when Third Sister is added, everything will come together. And knowing him, he already has everything ready to go um, when it comes to like Zetas and stuff like that, because he's farmed those up. He was like, look, I'm doing Inquisitors next, and set what I believe is a record of getting them ready, because many people online will be like, don't farm Inquisitors as a new player, don't farm Inquisitors as a mid game player, they're too expensive. It's like, well, if you plan your farms accordingly, it's really not that expensive. Um, because this, when he gets Third Sister, is a Galactic Legend essentially. It can it does so much when you get Third Sister that it's in my opinion better than a Galactic Legend, because when you go through that journey of a Galactic Legend, like when we go back here and say you're like, hey, I want to farm Kenobi, you have to farm all these individuals, 14, 15 characters. And some of these individuals, like Kenobi and others, require a ship or a capital fleet at a certain level too. And so you have to take that into consideration. Um, the expense, excuse me, the expensive part of going through a Galactic Legend is going to be your Bronzium wiring, your relic materials, your Bronzium wiring, and your signal data, because you're relicking people, excuse me, that you might not ever use. Like, when are you going to use Cody? When are you going to use Clone Sergeant Phase 1? You know, some of these others you can find uses for, but like there's going to be individuals on these journeys that are just going to be like completely useless. Like, um, looking at that, like no one's really going to be farming Tuskens. So you have to relic 5 Tusken Raider, and then he just sits there and he's wasted. You know, you look at this and you're like, oh, well, this isn't that much, but you need to add Lord Vader into it. Oh, look, you farmed Gas or General Skywalker. You need to farm the rest of the clones because you only get two of his clones on here. You need to farm the rest of his clones to get that done. So there's always like hidden requirements, is what we like to call them, when it comes to farming these things. And for Nick to have done this within like less than 2 months is a testament of like what it shows. It's evident that when you plan your farms appropriately, things that seem as daunting as Inquisitors really isn't that bad. Like when I showed you mine for getting Inquisitors, it was like, wow, you need a lot of stuff. But when you start breaking it down, it's really not that much. It seems like a lot, but I'm telling you, it's really not that much. Some of the stuff will get knocked out within a day or two. And so since I'm taking time to farm the shards, it's going to take me 2 to 3 months to get all the shards done. I take that time to farm the gear as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Sorry if the setup was a little weird. Again, I'm on my laptop and it's my first time streaming, but I really wanted to get something out there to help you guys tailor your farms better and be the most efficient. And it doesn't have to be efficient as in like, oh, this is the best GAC team. If you are a diehard, gas fan, go ahead and farm them, but just plan that stuff out. And these tools will really, really help out to identifying how long is it going to take something, or how long is it going to take to complete something, where your bottlenecks are, and then layering your farms so that you're not just solely focused on one thing, that you can diversify and expand the rosters that you guys have to whatever needs that you're trying to go for. If you're territory war focused, if you're territory battle focused, if you're raid focused, if you're just wanting to have fun, this is still applicable to you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please let me know if there's anything I can do or change, or if you want to hear some other topic next. But definitely wanting to get this out as soon as possible to kind of help you guys out and show you the different tools that are out there. But thanks again, and happy Easter to those that are out there. And if you guys have anything else, just leave them in the comments below.